Many Australians are rightfully asking what the hell is going on when it comes to half the government front bench being overseas for the past 2 months, while domestically we're in strife. I had no problem with Anthony Albanese going to Indonesia, Tokyo, or attending the NATO summit. All are worthy visits for a new Prime Minister who must establish ties with other world leaders. But half the cabinet going overseas is absolutely ridiculous. After being in Singapore and India only a few weeks back with Pat Conroy, Richard Marles is now on a 4-day trip in the US. Murray Watts away in Indonesia. Pat Conroy, a bloke who represents a seat in the Hunter region, is over in Fiji, now saying climate change is the #1 security threat. Penny Wong has toured the globe, it seems, and not only that, she pledged $50 million in aid to Sri Lanka, a government which was corrupt and has finally been run out of town. So where's her $50 million? It ought to be returned. Then last week, the whole Labor front bench were gushing over New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's visit to Australia. What do we make of this announcement? That America will join Australia's efforts to push back against the rise of Chinese influence in the Pacific with a multi-million-dollar package of funding for island nations. Some of these island nations, I have to say, are geniuses. They play us off against China to try to get the best deal for themselves. It's bargaining 101. They go around and say that China have offered us X amount of dollars, and then Australia comes swooping in and doubles it with no questions asked. If these Pacific nations were so repulsed by China, why would they allow the Chinese foreign minister to tour their countries in June to persuade them to join a trade and security pact? Now, the Solomon Islands, remember, took the bait. If you see politicians in the Solomons wearing Rolex watches, you most probably know why. We're now told that the US Vice President Kamala Harris will tell leaders at this week's Pacific Islands Forum in Fiji that the US will triple funding to $88.5 million a year over the next decade for economic development and, quote, ocean resiliency. Don't know what that last word is. Too bad no one listens to Kamala Harris. She isn't even popular in her own country or home state of California, let alone in the Pacific. Richard Marles said this week in Washington, I quote, "We worry about the use of force or coercion to advance territorial claims, as is occurring in the South China Sea, and its implications for any number of places in the Indo-Pacific," unquote. Well, sensible comments. But I'm just wondering if he or any of his Labor colleagues, when they were gushing over Jacinda Ardern and taking selfies with her, did any of them raise these concerns with her? New Zealand's the weak link. They hesitated to sign a Five Eyes joint communique denouncing Beijing's suppression of liberty in Hong Kong, as well as its repression of the Uyghur Muslims. Penny Wong met with Jacinda Ardern yesterday, alongside Fijian Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama in the Fijian capital Suva. Did Penny Wong raise these concerns with Ardern? Now, the public are tired of this lip service and throwing millions of taxpayers' dollars around with no debate. The $50 million to Sri Lanka is a case in point, money down the drain, which could have gone to flood-ravaged Lismore. Oh, well, I suppose it's called government, is it? A new one at that, but hardly something to get excited about.